passage of houses coming in still closer. Shoreline, the boat off on the left, and the space of the painting is really very convincing. The artist doesn't create space in complicated ways in the way a Six Dynasties artist or some earlier artist might do. He does it all very easily, with just effortlessly. The whole painting seems effortless. The amount of actual technical skill it required to paint such a picture is another matter. But he doesn't give the effect of showing off at all. No fancy brushwork, no expressive brushwork. No, look at me, what a great artist I am. Absolutely none of that. Okay, here we are. Here's the passage of the roofs of houses seen through the trees, through these dim, progressively dimmer trees. Here's the boat, by the way. The boatman, three people in the boat, very simply drawn because you're seeing it in a distance. And then the painting sort of goes off into the distance. This is the next full section of it. The boat down below here at the right, and then the shoreline going back, with bridges and boats and houses and all the rest into the far distance. And the painting quietly fades away. The later part of it, by the way, is damaged. You can see these big gray hanging things in the top. That's where the painting has been damaged and new paper has been set in. So there's part of it missing up there. But the hills disappear into the distance, way back, oh boy, way back into the distance, ewig. That's the end of Das Lied von der Erde by Mahler. A very soft, quiet ending, off into the distance, no real ending, as if it could go on forever. Oh well. Now, and even here, there are little bits of detail, more houses, more boats, which you see until the very end, and the painting quietly fades away. Here's a close-up of part of that distant passage, and you can see really quite a lot going on. A boat, people in the village, a number of figures, houses, and all the rest of it. So if you look hard, you find it, but basically it's just disappearing. And then here, further back, no houses, big seals, more damage at the top, and then here's the end of the painting. Blank. The artist, in other words, let it trail off into absolute blank paper. And our Qianlong emperor obliges by writing a big, awful inscription here and putting his seals all over, and other collectors put their seals all over, and the emperor writes about it as a Li Guangwen painting and great praise for it. And then at the left middle here is the fake, the spurious, interpolated so-called Li Guangwen signature, saying, "This is my dream journey on the Shaoshang picture. Bosher, that's Li Guangwen, painted it for Yungu," and so on. Okay, well, that, as I say, is why the painting was preserved. So we can be glad that it's there, even though it somewhat despoils the end of the painting for us. Okay, enough. That's a great work. I'm so glad to have good slides and be able to talk about it. It's a pinnacle of one direction in Southern Sung landscape that we'll see a few other works of the same kind. And we'll see it going still further in Chan or Zen painting in the late Sung. Okay, the next, please. A scroll that was paired with this in historic times, but vastly less interesting, also an old attribution to Li Guangwen that doesn't mean anything, is a painting, a long hand scroll, now in the Freer Gallery, old collection, A River in Shu, Freer Gallery 16, from 1916, acquired late in Freer's lifetime. A panoramic landscape of the Yangtze River is what it is. It's kind of a picture map, and it's interesting in its way, not very exciting as a painting, but showing actual places along the Yangtze River from way up. Shu is, of course, Sichuan, so we're seeing the upper reaches of the Yangtze River, where it begins in Sichuan. This is an anonymous, maybe late Sung work, hard to say, as a picture map. And interesting as that, here's another section of it with the misty hills along the river and so on. It begins, as I say, up in Shu, and then as we come down, the next please, we have a long section there's more going on and more villages and places, and the artist or somebody writes in labels all the way. And here you can see a pagoda in the lower left and the buildings on a ledge and so forth. Well, what's interesting is a picture map. I had a whole seminar on topographical painting and dealt with picture maps of this kind. I'm adding in here, last minute, because good images came into my possession, an important hand scroll in the Osaka Municipal Museum by a little-known artist named Hushun Chun. It belongs here under political themes because it depicts the departure of an official on a mission for the Northern Song Court, and it bears a colophon by the famous prime minister of that time, Tsai Ching. Such a scroll was no doubt presented to the official as a gift on his departure. Quite a few examples survive from later periods. I treat them in my chapter on meanings and functions in Chinese landscape painting in my book, 3 Alternative Histories of Chinese Painting. This scroll is the subject of a very good study by Elizabeth Brotherton, known to her friends as Lulu, and I count myself among her friends. She's the daughter of a very good friend of mine, Joe Brotherton, and although she wasn't properly my student, she sat in on my courses and seminars for a time before she went on to Princeton for the doctorate, and she teaches now at New York State University in New Paltz. Information on her article will be at the end of the handout for this lecture. Now back to the painting. Hushun Chun was a painter in the Huizhong Academy. His inscription, a poem signed and with a date corresponding to 1122, is at the left end of the painting. Brotherton makes a good argument that where an earlier farewell painting by Li Gunlin and its inscription, which are known only now from written records, the painting long lost, while this Li Gunlin painting and the inscription on it had expressed the literati attitude against government service, the conventional rhetoric of the would-be scholar officials always pretended that they would rather stay home on the farm, even when they were actively seeking office. In contrast to that, Hushun Chun and Tsai Ching, representing the imperial court attitude, glorify official service, praising the official for leaving his comfortable home to go off to bleak and perilous places. And the hand scroll, as Elizabeth Brotherton reads it, portrays that idea. Reading it backwards the Chinese way that is, from left to right, at the far left, we see the official's home, set among the trees, rising above the trees, with other buildings nearby, and things all representing a comfortable situation that he's leaving to go on this difficult trip. His understood road, beginning the trip, leads over a bridge and past successively larger and harsher-looking hills, eventually going into, at the far right, a mountain road beneath tall pines. Envoys in this period were frequently sent to negotiate with the Jin or Jurchens in the north, and this official was probably going on such a mission. Now, next please. I bring back to remind you this painting from the previous lecture, a copy, badly worm-eaten, after a composition probably by Wen Tong, a generation or so earlier, that is, the famous bamboo painter. This is a rare example of a landscape attributed to him anyway, in the Metropolitan Museum. I bring it back as another example of a landscape composition belonging to a type, this one the landscape of reclusion type, with the recipient's retirement house surrounded by hills at the left, and the opening out from the river shore at right, signifying his freedom to move out into the world when he wanted to, boats moored on the shore to suggest that. This type also is discussed in my 3 Alternative Histories article,